What if you walked into your marital bedroom and found your wife performing oral sex on your brother? How would you face a betrayal so devastating it shattered everything you believed in? Andra Harris was a man who seemed to have it all: a loving wife, 4 beautiful children, and a career that made him a pillar of his community. As a sheriff, he was the protector of others, the one people turn to in their darkest moments. But what happens when the protector becomes the victim? When the betrayal comes from the very people closest to him? One ordinary day, a revelation would crash into Andra's life, tearing apart everything he thought he knew about trust and loyalty. The quiet, loving home he had built would become the setting for a tragedy no one could have predicted. This is the story of a betrayal so intimate and devastating it ended in heartbreak, violence, and the destruction of an entire family. Before we dive into this heartbreaking case, make sure you like this video and subscribe to Shocking True Crime Stories. This one will leave you questioning everything you thought you knew about trust and loyalty. Andra Harris was a man of principle, a 44-year-old sheriff whose life revolved around his unwavering commitment to justice and family. Respected in his community for his integrity and quiet leadership, Andra took great pride in the life he had built. At the center of it all was Jasmine, the woman he married 15 years ago, and the mother of his 4 children. Their love story began when Andra was a young deputy, eager to make a difference in the world, and Jasmine was volunteering at a community event. She was magnetic, with a smile that could light up a room, and Andra, typically reserved, found himself captivated by her warmth and charm. Jasmine, 39, had grown up in the same city as Andra, but their paths hadn't crossed until that fateful day. Or so Andra thought. In truth, Jasmine had a history that predated their relationship, a connection to someone Andra held close. Tyrone Harris, 41, was in many ways Andra's opposite, while Andra was steady, disciplined, and focused. Tyrone was impulsive, charming, and carefree. He had always been the golden boy, the one who could make anyone laugh, talk his way out of trouble, and leave a lasting impression wherever he went. But his charm often masked a deep insecurity, a feeling that he was constantly living in Andra's shadow. While Andra had built a successful career and started a family, Tyrone's life had been a series of starts and stops, failed relationships, odd jobs, and a restless pursuit of something he could never quite name. Jasmine had known Tyrone long before she ever met Andra. They had attended the same high school, though their social circles rarely overlapped. Jasmine, quiet and studious, had admired Tyrone from afar. He was everything she wasn't: popular, confident, and seemingly untouchable. Like many others, she had fallen for his easy charm, though he barely noticed her. Years later, when Andra brought her home to meet his family after they began dating, she was shocked to realize that Andra's younger brother was the same Tyrone she had secretly crushed on for years. Andra introduced them with pride, oblivious to the flicker of recognition in Jasmine's eyes or the spark of amusement in Tyrone's. For Andra, family was everything, and bringing Jasmine into the fold was a way to solidify the future he envisioned for them. Tyrone, always quick to seize an opportunity, played the role of the supportive younger brother, welcoming Jasmine with open arms. The connection between Jasmine and Tyrone was almost instantaneous. Though they kept it hidden from Andra, their shared history became a private bond. Something they could talk about in quiet moments that Andra would never suspect. The affair didn't start immediately, but the groundwork was laid in those early days. Tyrone visited often, his charm and humor making him a favorite among the family. Jasmine, feeling the weight of Andra's demanding job and growing emotional distance, found herself drawn to Tyrone's attention. He noticed things Andra didn't: the way she styled her hair, the effort she put into preparing meals, the moments when she seemed overwhelmed but tried to hide it. For Jasmine, it felt like someone was finally seeing her again. The first step across the line happened a year after Andra and Jasmine's wedding. Tyrone had come over to help with a repair project while Andra was working late. They talked and laughed as they worked, reminiscing about high school teachers and sharing memories from when Tyrone was a student. It was a fleeting moment, but it opened the door to something neither of them could undo. For Tyrone, the affair was as much about desire as it was about rivalry. He had always envied Andra, his discipline, his success, his ability to build a life that seemed so stable and complete. Taking something that belonged to Andra felt like a twisted form of victory, a way to claim a piece of the life he believed should have been his. Jasmine, for her part, justified the betrayal as filling a void that Andra had left unaddressed, though the gilded in quiet moments when she was alone. Their secret relationship began in earnest, woven into the fabric of family gatherings, casual visits, and shared moments that Andra never thought to question. The affair overlapped with the early years of Jasmine and Andra's marriage, a period during which 3 of their 4 children were conceived. While Andra worked tirelessly to provide for his growing family, Tyrone and Jasmine continued their betrayal, convinced that their secret would never come to light. Andra devoted himself to his family and his work, never suspecting the cracks forming beneath the surface of his seemingly perfect life. He adored his children, Malik, the responsible and mature eldest, Jaden, the playful and curious middle child, Cameron, the quiet and thoughtful observer, and Alia, the youngest and only daughter, whose innocence and joy lit up the household. To Andra, his family was everything, the anchor that kept him grounded in the chaos of his demanding career. Little did he know that the foundation of that family was built on a lie, one that would eventually come to destroy everything he held dear. The affair between Jasmine and Tyrone began as an unexpected connection, rekindled from their high school years. But it quickly spiraled into something far more intense. In the early days, their interactions were subtle, lingering looks, a brush of the hand when no one was watching, and stolen conversations that carried a spark neither could ignore. What started as innocent nostalgia for their shared past became a dangerous web of desire and deceit that entwined their lives in ways they hadn't anticipated. The first time they crossed the line, it felt electric, almost inevitable. Tyrone had come while Andra was working late, an all too common occurrence given Andra's demanding schedule as sheriff. Jasmine had asked for help with a household repair, and Tyrone, ever the charmer, was happy to oblige. Their laughter, as they reminisced about high school memories, turned into something deeper when Jasmine brushed past him in the narrow hallway. Tyrone, emboldened by the moment, leaned in for a kiss. Jasmine didn't resist. That single act set the tone for what would become years of secret meetings and shared secrets. As the affair progressed, they became masters at hiding their relationship from Andra. They were careful, always making sure their stolen moments were well timed. Family gatherings became opportunities for whispered conversations and fleeting touches when no one else was looking. Tyrone would offer to babysit the kids while Jasmine ran errands. Perfect excuse to spend time alone together. Their shared history gave them a natural cover. After all, it wasn't uncommon for in-laws to bond over their past. Andra never thought to question it. Tyrone often found himself conflicted about the affair, especially in the beginning. He knew it was wrong, not just because Jasmine was married, but because she was married to his brother. The weight of that betrayal sat heavy on his chest, but every time he thought about ending it, Jasmine's presence would pull him back. Her attention, her touch, it all filled a void in Tyrone's life, a sense of worth he had never quite achieved on his own. Jasmine, for her part, was equally torn. She loved her family and cared deeply for Andra, but Tyrone made her feel seen and wanted in a way she hadn't. For years, One of the most intoxicating aspects of their relationship was Jasmine's ability to make Tyrone feel powerless, in the best way possible. Her confidence, especially in their intimate moments, was something Tyrone couldn't resist. Jasmine had a way of making him feel like he was the center of her universe, and her skill in the bedroom was unmatched. She knew exactly how to keep him coming back. Her mastery of fellatio left him breathless and addicted, even when Tyrone tried to pull away, convinced he had to stop before they got caught. The memory of her touch, her lips, and the way she made him feel would draw him back. Their passion for each other wasn't just physical, it was laced with danger, guilt, and the thrill of the forbidden. It was this mix of emotions that made their connection so intense and so hard to break. Jasmine knew exactly how to keep Tyrone entangled, offering just enough affection to make him feel needed without demanding too much in return. Tyrone, for all his charm and bravado, was powerless to resist. He hated himself for it, but he hated the idea of letting her go even more. The secrecy of their affair added to its intensity. Every stolen kiss, every whispered word felt magnified by the risk they were taking. They developed elaborate ways to communicate without arousing suspicion. Tyrone would send innocuous text messages, disguised as conversations about family matters. Jasmine would arrange errands that conveniently placed her near Tyrone's apartment or work, ensuring they could steal moments together unnoticed. Even in the Harris house. As they grew older, they found ways to hide in plain sight, using family gatherings and casual visits as cover for their stolen intimacy. For years, they managed to keep the affair hidden from Andra. The bond between Jasmine and Tyrone seemed like a natural extension of their family dynamic. Andra never questioned Tyrone's frequent visits or the way Jasmine's mood seemed to lift whenever Tyrone was around. He was too focused on providing for his family, too trusting of the people he loved most, to see the truth unfolding right in front of him. But secrets have a way of surfacing, no matter how carefully they're buried. Jasmine and Tyrone's affair, built on passion, betrayal, and lies, was bound to unravel. The deeper they fell into their secret world, the more precarious their situation became. Every stolen moment carried the risk of discovery, and every whisper of guilt hinted at the storm that was to come. For years, Andrew remained blissfully unaware of the betrayal unfolding in his own home. He was proud of his family, adored each of his children, and cherished the life he believed they had built together. But everything changed one afternoon when Jasmine, in what seemed like a casual remark, mentioned how much Jaden's smile reminded her of Tyrone's. The remark, though innocent on the surface, struck a chord deep within Andra. He brushed it off at first, but the thought lingered, nagging at the back of his mind. Questions began to form, small, unsettling doubts that he couldn't shake. Unable to ignore the unease, Andra decided to put his concerns to rest once and for all, but the path to confirming his worst fears was not easy. He spent days researching how to conduct a DNA test discreetly, not wanting to arouse Jasmine's suspicions. His hands trembled as he placed the order for a home DNA kit online, using an alternate delivery address to keep it hidden from his family. When the kit arrived, Andra carefully hid it in his car, waiting for the right moment to collect the samples he needed. He planned meticulously, taking his time to ensure his actions wouldn't be noticed. Late one night, while the children were asleep and Jasmine was in the shower, he sneaked into their rooms. From Malik's desk, he grabbed a used pencil with faint teeth marks on the eraser. Jaden's nightstand provided a partially chewed straw from a juice box. Cameron's laundry basket held a discarded sock he could use. For Alia, he carefully picked a strand of hair from her brush, whispering an apology to himself as he did so. Each item was sealed in a plastic bag, labeled, and tucked away in the kit. The final piece of the puzzle was his own DNA sample, sitting alone in his car late that night. Andra swabbed his cheek, following the kit's instructions with grim determination. As he sealed the swab and placed it with the others, a wave of nausea washed over him. What was he doing? The very act of collecting these samples felt like a betrayal of his family, a violation of the trust he had worked so hard to build. But the doubts had taken root too deeply to ignore. As he mailed the samples off the next morning, Andra couldn't shake the knot in his stomach. He told himself it was nothing, that he would receive the results in a few weeks, laugh at his foolishness, and put the matter to rest. But as the days dragged on, his anxiety grew. He began scrutinizing every interaction between Jasmine and Tyrone, every look, every laugh, every shared moment. The thought of them together in ways he couldn't bear to imagine haunted him. When the results finally arrived, Andra opened the envelope with trembling hands. The words stared back at him like a death sentence. Malik, Jaden, and Cameron weren't biologically his. Only Alia, his youngest, carried his DNA. The paper fell from his hands as the room seemed to close in around him. Rage, betrayal, and devastation collided in his mind, leaving him with only one thought. He needed answers. As Andra processed the damning evidence, a rage like he had never known overtook him. The family he had dedicated his life to, the children he had loved unconditionally, were the result of a betrayal so deep it made his blood boil. He didn't stop to think. He didn't pause to plan. With the DNA results clutched in his shaking hands, he drove home in a blur, his mind consumed by fury. Andra burst through the front door, calling out for Jasmine. His voice echoed through the house like a thunderclap. There was no answer, just a chilling silence that made the hairs on the back of his neck stand up. He climbed the stairs 2 at a time, his heart pounding in his chest. As he reached their bedroom, he froze. There, on the bed they had shared for years, were Jasmine and Tyrone in the throes of their affair. The betrayal he had just uncovered in black and white DNA evidence was now playing out in vivid, undeniable reality before his eyes. Jasmine's face turned pale as she saw Andra in the doorway, anger etched into every line of his expression. Tyrone, ever the smooth talker, tried to speak, but Andra didn't give him a chance. In a blind rage, Andra reached for the gun as part of his duty as sheriff. The years of deceit, the lies, and the shattering truth about his children all boiled over in a moment of uncontrollable rage. Without hesitation, he fired the first shot, hitting Tyrone square in the chest and silencing his brother's arrogant grin forever. Jasmine screamed, her hands flying up as if to shield her from the truth that was now unavoidable. A second shot rang out, and she fell silent, collapsing on the bed where her betrayal had been exposed. The room fell into a deafening silence, broken only by the sound of Andra's ragged breathing. As he stood over their lifeless bodies, the weight of what he had done began to settle over him like a dark cloud. But in that moment, all he could feel was the crushing devastation of a life built on lies. The first shot had echoed through the house, followed immediately by the second. The sound was deafening, shattering the silence of the evening like a clap of thunder. Downstairs, the children stirred. Malik, the eldest, raced toward the stairs, his heart pounding. Jaden tried to hold him back, begging him not to go, but Malik shrugged him off. Determined to find out what had happened, Cameron lingered in the hallway shaking, while Alia began to cry softly, her young mind unable to comprehend the gravity of the situation. In the master bedroom, Andra stood over the lifeless bodies of Jasmine and Tyrone. The sharp smell of gunpowder in the air, mingling with the oppressive silence that followed the gunshots. His firearm slipped from his trembling hand as Malik appeared in the doorway, his eyes wide with fear. "Dad, what happened?" he stammered. Andra couldn't meet his son's eyes. His voice was deep and frightening as he said, "Go to your room. Take your brothers and sister with you. Now." Malik hesitated, feeling the gravity of his father's tone. But Andra barked, "Go!" His voice cracked with a mixture of authority and anguish. The children retreated, huddling together. In Malik's room, their muffled cries filling the silence as Andra walked downstairs. His movements were slow and deliberate, each step carrying a crushing burden. In the living room, he sat, staring blankly ahead as the distant sound of sirens grew louder with each passing second. Stark reminder that his life was about to change forever. When the police arrived, Andra did not resist. He walked to the front door as the officers approached with their guns drawn. "I'm unarmed," he said, raising his hands. His voice was devoid of emotion, his eyes glassy and unfocused. The officers handcuffed him and led him out of the house. In Malik's room, their muffled cries filling the silence as Andra walked downstairs. His movements were slow and deliberate, each step carrying a crushing burden. In the living room, he sat, staring blankly ahead as the distant sound of sirens grew louder with each passing second. Stark reminder that his life was about to change forever. When the police arrived, Andra did not resist. He walked to the front door as the officers approached with their guns drawn. "I'm unarmed," he said, raising his hands. His voice was devoid of emotion, his eyes glassy and unfocused. The officers handcuffed him and led him out of the house. Reckless disregard for their well-being. The prosecution argued that his training and role as a sheriff in the community made his actions all the more egregious. The defense, however, portrayed Andra as a man pushed to the brink, whose crime was born of unimaginable betrayal rather than premeditated malice. Despite the legal arguments, Andra knew he had no defense for what he had done. He did not fight the charges, accepting the weight of his guilt without protest. The case was a spectacle that drew widespread media attention, but Andra remained stoic throughout. "You took 2 lives," the judge said in response, "and in doing so, shattered the lives of your children and your community." As Andra was led away in handcuffs, his thoughts turned to his children, knowing they would carry the burden of his actions for the rest of their lives. His only hope, however distant and unlikely, was that they might one day find it in their hearts to forgive him, even as he struggled to forgive himself. This case is a devastating reminder of the cost of betrayal and the irreversible consequences of an unthinkable act. As the truth unfolded before him, was Andra's crime born of temporary insanity, a single moment of blinding rage? Or was it the ultimate betrayal, the years of secrets and lies festering until there was no way forward but violence? What do you think? Was Andra a victim of his emotions, pushed to the brink by an unimaginable betrayal? Or does the blame lie squarely on his shoulders? And how much responsibility falls on Jasmine and Tyrone for their role in this tragedy? Let us know in the comments below.